let's start by looking at an art book. First thing, wow, whatever happened to that jingle? I guess I just got bored of it. I can one hand clap, and also like this, which just sounds like I'm masturbating, which I often am. You thought I was done looking at Hellboy. You were wrong, you shitwillies. I was recently in London visiting my friend Tom. Well, I was actually visiting my friend, a therapist, for therapy. And I saw Tom, and then we went into a comic book shop, and then when I was in the comic book shop I saw this, and I was like, oh. Oh god, I need to take a moment, I'm sorry. I feel a bit congested, but not like congested, like in my chest. Congested. I saw this, Mike Mignola's Hellboy Artisan, not Artist Edition, but oh, maybe that's where the congestion was. Artisan, Hellboy in Hell and Other Stories. It contains the first 5 issues of Hellboy in Hell, as well as a wealth of historical material. The first 3 Hellboy stories, the 2 initial 4 pages that introduce the character, and the 10-page story from John Byrne's Next Men number 21, plus The Corpse, and 2 other tales selected by Mignola for inclusion. It's the actual black and white inks. I don't know how clear it will be on the camera, because the quality is always a bit skew-with when I put it on the tube, the YouTube. But you can see like the ink strokes, like the ink blotches and stuff. It's not just straight black and white. You can see pencil line, like blue pencil lines underneath some of them. There's a few bits where you can see he's like gone over other bits or scribbled bits out. In certain parts you can see pasted up letters and stuff. So it's like the artist edition, where it's the original art from some of the more modern Hellboy stuff, as well as some of the old original Hellboy stuff, which is really fucking cool. I imagine, or I almost know, almost for a fact I guess, these pages are probably just under half the original size. If this is a typical comic book artist board from Dark Horse Comics Art Board, those are just a bit bigger than A3, so bigger than this. So it would be cool to have an artist edition that is actual size, but failing that, seeing them at this size is still cool enough. If you're seeing it in person, as I am in person, I can see clearly all the little bits. Like here, maybe it looks a bit grey on this bit of the heart, this ventricle or whatever of the heart. You can see there's a little bit of whiteout happened here, where he's obviously just corrected just a little mistake, which is things, you think Mignola, you think, well, he's the most perfect comic artist there is, but then you see just even tiny little bits like that, and you're like, oh, he's human after all. The poor bastard, the poor human bastard. But what I love about this is you really get the feeling that these comics are drawn by a human hand. I think I've spoken briefly before. This is extremely cool, by the way. All these bugs, these fucking weird squid alien hell bug things. He even drew it across 2 artboards. Man. And why not? That's in the comic. All the colours and stuff. The colour does add a lot to it. Sometimes the colour is sort of just like, the colour's just sort of there. And when you see the black and white art, it's like, oh, okay, fucking whatever. But in this case, like, the black and white art is cool, but the colour really fucking adds to it, especially the contrast of like this sort of darker green turquoise bit compared with this bright, shiny, flash purple bit. That's really fucking cool. But yeah, I may have discussed, or not discussed, just said out loud to myself while recording a podcast before that when I was a kid, looking at comics like the Beano and the Dandy, the old British staples of childhood comic bookery, I always, for some reason, I imagined comics were just printed off of a machine, like fully made, not, obviously they are printed in a printing press or whatever, but I assume the entirety of what you see in a comic came from a machine. It was just printed as a comic. It took me a weirdly long time to actually grasp the fact that everything was drawn and then, coloured and fed through a machine and printed out, which gives it, like this, like any of this, especially with Mignola's work, for the blacks versus the whites, which is part of life. Not really. Well, for some people, but fuck them. That's off topic. Because the blacks are so like deep black, and the white, it contrasts so vastly with the white versus the black that it feels very machine-like, very binary, 0 and 1, black and white. Whereas, so you can really get the impression that it's been fed through a machine and been printed out. Whereas seeing the actual artwork with all the, the blacks aren't solid blacks. There's brush strokes and stuff, and you can see parts that are slightly faded, little pencil lines here and there. It really gives you the sense that, yes, in fact, it is drawn. These are drawings. These are bits of paper that exist out in the world that become the comics you'll fucking know and love, which is amazing. Well, maybe it's not amazing, but it's cool to see. I like it. Tick. Oh, don't get too close to the tick. It'll latch onto you and drink your blood. You have to burn it off or suffocate it. Ticks, get it? So this might be the entire podcast. It might just be me looking through this. Every page, every single page. No, I probably won't. What another interesting thing that this really shows, I've spoken about it in Hellboy comics before, is the contrast between the more modern Hellboy drawings and the classic Hellboy drawings, of which there are a bunch in here. So that's pretty much, that is like Hellboy in Hell, the first half of the Hellboy in Hell saga, which is, cool, obviously. And there's a lot of like cool panels. That's a really nice one to see in black and white. All the branches and shit. The snake. Whenever there's a harsh like black and white contrast bit like this snake, that's always shown really well and effectively in the comic, even with colour. It's usually like glowy or something, Mignola adds colour very well. But seeing it in black and white, there is something about it. Seeing it as a drawing as opposed to... Do you notice how since a few people not necessarily call me out, but like point out how I pronounce drawing, like it's spelled Jroring, drawing. How specifically I pronounce it sometimes on purpose to be like drawing. That's really cool. Yeah, you see that in the comic, and it's like, okay, there's a town, village, whatever in the comic, but then you see it as a drawing, and you're like, that's a fucking drawing, man. Little bits of white out here and there. Cool. More cool. Like, I fucking hate drawing buildings. Can't stand it. They're boring as fuck. Occasionally you can get some cool character into a building and yeah, whatever. But when it's like this, they've got some actual life and character to them, and this is almost a character in the story. And it's sort of, these kinds of buildings especially remind me of Winchester, where I grew up. There's a lot of like old, I don't know, Victorian era sort of buildings that look almost exactly like this. which is cool. Winchester's like, it's a nice place, but it's full of rich cunts who work in London, so fuck the lot of them. Frankly, the poor / rich divide, as in most cities, is prevalent in Winchester, abundant in Winchester. That's fucking cool. The Leviathan comes up and eats fucking Satan or whoever, maybe one of Hellboy's brothers or something, bursts out of the ground, which is crazy to see. Like it's almost such a simplistic drawing. Like there's not a lot of ink on that page for such an impactful image. So I'm just gonna find it, try and find it. Fuck knows where it is. I've not been counting page numbers or anything. I don't know where it is in here. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So in the comic with the colours and all, like it works perfectly, and you know. The ground, it's so good, and you see it as a drawing, and there's almost nothing there. It's fucking weird. Fucking weird. What the fuck's going on? There's one. That's the one. That's one of the first images I saw from Hellboy in Hell, which made me want to look up Hellboy in Hell, because I wasn't really aware that it was a thing. And I saw this, the actual page of this, which I. All right, I'll find it in the fucking. I don't know. Well, yeah, I saw this, and I was like, "That's a really fucking cool image." And then I saw it online. Someone just posted this panel online, and I was like, "Oh, that's really fucking cool." Then I realised it was Mignola Hellboy, and I was like, "Oh shit, son!" Just everything about it is just so. Just cool. It's another one that's relatively simplistic, but in terms of like composition and contrast and color, like the lightning and shit, man, some good shit, man. Some really fucking good shit. I saw it ages ago. I was almost very, very tempted to get a copy. It was The Watchmen. The Watchmen. Is it Watchmen or is it Watchmen? The Watchmen. What do they all have matching watches or something? That's a bit silly. I've got a whole team of people and we've all got old Casio watches. Swatch. And other fucking watch brands. Rolexes. I don't know. It was a black and white version of Watchmen. Hardback, big, nice looking book. The cover was all black and white and all the interiors were black and white. And it's like cool. It's almost like an artist edition Watchmen. But it was just like the exact same Watchmen comic with all the colour stripped out. So the blacks weren't like washes like you can see here. With, you know, you can see brush strokes and ink lines and stuff. It was just the printed black colour with, well, the printed black with all the colour taken out. So it was just black and white, and it's kind of cool, but sort of and that's one of those comics where the colour helps, but seeing it without colour, it's almost just as good. Whereas something like Hellboy, the colour has such attention paid to it, which the Watchmen does as well, to a degree. It does. It's a very well made comic. My hot take. Fucking Watchmen's a well-made comic, but I feel like the colour in Hellboy is a lot more like a part of the artwork as opposed to part of the comic book, if that makes sense. That's how I feel about it anyway. Like the colour really makes the image and as much a part of the book as it is the art, or something. Jeez, I don't know. You get the idea. You get what I'm saying. This is really cool. It's this old classic story, and this one you can really see a lot more pencil lines. This was one of the first ever like Hellboy promotional strips. So you can see where the lettering's been pasted up. It's been cut out of a bit of paper and stuck on here. A lot more pencil lines where you know Hellboy in Hell at this point, he you know, I'm sure most of these pages were done straight as you see them, straight on the artboard. He knows maybe a rough thumbnail and then just does it, draws it, inks it, and it's done. Whereas back here, years and years earlier, there's bits here, shapes that haven't been used, stuff that's been whited out, lines going through other lines, a lot more working out on the page. So he's obviously refined his skills and techniques by the time he got to the final Hellboy story, Hellboy in Hell. So that's really cool to see. Also, yeah, just sort of the amount of detail and the amount of ink he puts onto each page is a lot more than he does more recently. Which is, it's not better or worse, because it's still incredible drawings, and that's the important thing, is the drawings are still really fucking cool, regardless of, you know, how much physical labour went into them. And you can see here, there's a blue line here where the dog's head was maybe going to be up a bit more, and then he moved it down, changed the angle a bit by the looks of things. A lot more scribbly lines here and there. It's cool to see. It's really, really cool to see. That's an amazing page. That's a really cool page anyway. And of course, we got them in colour. I think they're in this edition. Or they might not be in this edition. Shit, do I have to go and find my other edition to find the fucking goddamn... Oh, goddamn it. They're not in this edition. Fuck. Oh, they are. Fuck yeah, let's go. Yeah, I think the black and white one is better in here. I think the colours are too harsh and contrasty in this older edition. Where, again, more time has given him sort of more knowledge of how to use colour, I assume. And so he uses a lot more sort of like toned down kind of colours in the more recent comics, whereas here they feel, you know, a bit harsher. I do like the shock of red of Hellboy against the darker environmental colours. But yeah, the black and white drawing of that page, that's a really fucking nice drawing. And you see the, yeah, more detail in Hellboy. He's got hairs and the right hand is a bit smaller. More sort of like fleshy muscle details and stuff. Still, you know, the sort of white outline, that gorilla, and the dark and light contrast and stuff. Like, you know, this fucker's got a swastika on his head, you know, as a tattoo or whatever, and it's black there, but then making it white here so it still stands out when the front of the face is sort of in shadow. That's really smart. All these dots he used to use, you don't really see those much in the newer comics. And then this strip, I love that. That is such a fucking cool spread. That's because I love a big monster, you know, fucking Godzilla, King Ghidorah, all of that shit. Love it. Beastie Boys Intergalactic music video. Hellboy jumping at this fucking lobster weird creature, and that reminds me a lot. I meant to get it. Give me a second. I'll see if I can find something. I mean, it's not strictly relevant. It reminded me of a thing. I believe it's in the second run. I know it's one of Jake Parker's. You know, I've spoken about Jake Parker's work before, and how I'm very sort of like about it. Like, he's very, very good at what he does. Can't put his work down too much. You know, he's very, very good, and he's sort of in the position he's in for a reason. But personally, I find his work a bit too quaint. Maybe I'm a bit meh about it for that reason. But there was one story he did. Oh, where it is? It can't be this one because this is a different artist, isn't it? God damn it! If I can't find it, I'm just going to feel very silly now. God damn it! What the fuck? Oh, is it this one? I don't think it is. Shit. Well, now I just feel silly. Oh, let me go and find something. It's really cool. I'll show it to you because there's a thing in this comic that reminded me of it. And now I can't fucking find it. I don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. It's in here. There! There we go. Look at that. Yeah, so, you know, love or hate Jake Parker. I'm a bit love and hate with him. Mostly hate. Just, I think, because I think I know he's Mormon, and therefore I'm prejudiced against him for that because of, you know, my own personal background and prejudices. But that's a really fucking cool spread. You, like I say, if you love or hate Jake Parker's work, that's a fucking cool spread in a comic. He designs cool robots and ships and stuff, so all of that stuff's sort of a given. But then this monster is really fucking cool. It looks very crustacean-y. He's got all the lobster and crab parts sort of really, really good. The squid-like tentacles are really cool. The mini tentacles in front. The scale of it's really good. The perspective of it's really good. It fitting into the environment with the stuff around it is really, really cool. That's a really fucking good spread, man. I like that. That's the sort of thing that, like, I guess black and white would be meh, because the black is sort of just the lines. But a print of that would be cool, you know. Like an artist edition print of that would be pretty fucking neato. I don't know. Well, that was worthwhile, wasn't it? Which is to say, there was a lobster creature, and it reminded me of that. I don't know. But that's a really fucking cool spreadaroo, so it is. And we love to see Hellboy fighting weird Cthulhu-esque monsters. You know, that's part of the fun of Hellboy, isn't it? Hellboy 2 in the film, where there's that giant elemental thing. That's about as Cthulhu as you get, isn't it? It's fucking cool. The contrast there, man. Hellboy in the front, the monster in the back, almost pure white, apart from a few details. The silhouette work, that's some really fucking good silhouette work. Especially because he's already given you the creature, so you see it and you go, oh, that's a fucking thing. Then you see it in silhouette, so you know what it is. So it's not just a random shape. It makes sense with a few little lines here and there, but some good silhouettage, silhouettage, as nobody would ever say. The corpse, the classic tale. The corpse. I really love the drawings. This era of Hellboy, I think, is possibly my favourite. I love the drawings. The sort of like slightly angular look to certain things. The textures he uses and stuff, really, really cool. A bit more detail than like Hellboy in Hell. Not quite as much detail as like the old Hellboy. Even though this is basically old Hellboy. But of course, oh, and that's the, you know, the famous... Cartoonist Kayfabe said something. I think they've brought it up a couple of times. And I really disagree with it. I disagree with a fair bit of what they say in terms of their opinions and stuff. If they're speaking straight information and I find it interesting, that's cool. But when they say certain things about this and that, I'm like... And I think Jim Rugg on the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel, if you're not aware, look it up, whatever. I think it was Jim Rugg said he heard somewhere somebody else say that you can read this section in any order, which I very much disagree with. I think that's silly, and I don't believe Mignola would have made it that way. I think it's like either just this portion or maybe even this portion was originally printed somewhere and then some other bits were added afterwards. I think that's the case. But even so, comic books are written, drawn and read in a very specific top to bottom, left to right way. So it would, and you know, if you've got middle panels, it's like that. You read the middle panels down, and then across again. So it's you read like this. So and it makes sense if you're reading the story. Hellboy shows up to this hangman's tree or whatever. There's a ripped bit of rope, and you hear a creak, and he's supposed to show up there exactly midnight. You hear his watch tick as it strokes midnight. He looks, and lo and behold, a corpse appears at the hangman's tree, and then it points out the direction it needs to go. And then, I guess 1 minute later, it's gone, which is really fucking cool storytelling. And it makes perfect sense to read it that way. If you read it in any other order, as I think they were saying on Cartoonist Kayfabe, it doesn't make sense. Like creak, and then there's a corpse, and then tick, and then there isn't a corpse, which I guess does make sense, but then it's already, that's feeds into here. But then if it's, well, you read it backwards, then there's a corpse, and then he shows up at midnight, and then it's gone. And it's like no, it has a definitive, like, I don't know. I might have just sort of negated my own point, but I shut up. This page, I don't know how clear it is. You can see vaguely like the artboard things on the outside there, but this page looks like a photocopy, like a black and white photocopy of the original comic book page, because it doesn't look like it's inked. It looks like it's a random page. So maybe they couldn't track down the original artwork for this page or something, which is understandable. I'm sure that happens. This note for Guillermo: no one deserves these pages more. Thanks, doesn't cover it. Mike M. Magnus. So I guess he gifted these pages to Guillermo del Toro, who obviously fucking made the Hellboy films 1 and 2, the good ones. And the corpse was in the first Hellboy film, so it fucking makes sense. He gifted him the pages. No one deserves these more. Fucking have them. I think that's great. Can you imagine being like close enough with someone like Mignola, or like an artist you admire so much that you turn their work into a fucking feature movie, and then the guy just gifts you some of the original artwork? Like, that's insane. But cool, you know. That's really, really nice. The flaming skeleton. I don't want to appear wishy-washy when I was doing this whole thing, because okay, I appreciate corpses there, then it ticks past midnight, and then it disappears. That's fine, but that's showing midnight. So he shows up at midnight, the corpse shows up. That's how it's told. Any other order you read that in doesn't really make sense. And that's, I felt like I left this, I started off going, you're a fucking idiot if you think this, and this is how I see it, which means it's right because it's the way I see it. And then by the end I was like, oh, I don't know though, maybe it's not, you can have your opinion and that's fine, I guess. I don't want to appear like I'm fucking flip-flopping around. My opinion is there's one way to read that and any other way is incorrect. The fucking hag in the water, that's cool. That's fucking, I love that. I love that page in the comic. I even pointed that out when I looked at it recently. Love that page in the comic and love it here also. I think that's really, really fucking cool. That's a page I'd want to own. And I mean, it looks like all the text is drawn straight onto the page, which is pretty different. You don't see that too much. Stuff's usually, you know, pasted up or whatever. I think that's another photocopied page. Oh, one of 3 pages in this book not scanned from the original art. There's a note. Is that note on the other one as well? I guess that's what I get for not actually reading things, isn't it? Yeah, 1 of 3 pages in this book not scanned from the original art. Yeah. Well, that's that. There you go. There's that then. And I love the I know I've said it before, but I'll say it again because it's fucking good. The changing of scale, where he starts enormous, this huge, colossal fucking warthog troll thing smashing out from under a bridge. And then as he gets beaten up, I guess with this fucking medallion, he gets smaller and smaller and runs away. And then, does he say it here? Oh, yeah, no, I'll be back for you, horrible thing. I thought that was him going back, but no, he says that afterwards. The guy vanishing, I pointed that out before, that's really well done, as he vanishes away. And then the child's safe, oh hooray, we love a safe child. Well, we do if it's in a Hellboy story, that's the whole point, isn't it? Some other shit, I don't know what this is or when it was used, but slightly more modern Hellboy. You can see he's drawing him differently. He's got sort of almost a different look to him, a different texture to him as well, compared with this Hellboy. Like, he almost does look older and more defeated, more sort of like his shoulders are sloping more, his face is like a bit more sort of old and weathered and hanging down. Whereas here, it feels a bit more sort of like a Superman, like square-jawed, gritted teeth, like ready to go character. And then here, he does feel like he's becoming a statue over time, like he's turning more and more into stone or something. There's a hair there, and I thought that was me, but it wasn't. It was on the page. Oh, I do. I remember seeing this somewhere. I think I've got this printed comic because I really love this scene. All might have been well, but the beautiful girl, worried for her sister, looked out of a window and a troll snatched off her head and put in its place a cow head. And she became a cow. I love this here, this cow's head. I love the angle and the slope and the movement of it and the tongue hanging out like it's just going... It's just suddenly appeared on this girl's neck in place of her human head. That's a really cool panel. I really like that. It's also quite bizarre. Like, you're like, okay, that's a cow's head, but what's going on here? And then you read it and you're like, oh, of course. Replace their head with a cow's head. Why wouldn't you fucking do that? I'd do that to everyone if I could. Do that to every ex I ever had. Especially you, Felicity Bell. Fuck you. Do you know the bummer about that is I saw a picture of Felicity Bell, who was my girlfriend for like 2 weeks in school. And then I didn't know how to have a girlfriend. I didn't know what I was doing. I got a girlfriend and then I was like, oh, do we hold hands? I don't know. And so we broke up because I shouldn't have had a girlfriend. I don't know what I was doing with a girlfriend. But I saw a picture of her more recently and oh my God, she's fucking gorgeous. And, you know, sucks to be me, I guess. But is she living and working as an artist? No, I don't think she is. That's a really cool drawing. I love that drawing of Hellboy. At this point, again, compared to, you know, how Hellboy looks in more recent Hellboy comics, this almost looks like Hellboy fan art. Which, you know, is a thing. And yeah, because he looks a lot bulkier. Like this, it's more a dome of his shoulders rather than a slope of his shoulders, where the more modern one sort of comes down sooner and slopes down, whereas this is a big arch of his shoulders, very broad. He does appear to have been more of an action hero in the past, and then sort of become a bit more tame. Not tame, but like, you know, a bit more reserved maybe in his older age. Still very, very much able to fight and kick ass, but yeah, man. Well happy to have this in my collection. I'll be looking through this quite a lot. Man. And now for something completely different. I only just looked on at the time of how long I was looking at that book, and that was almost a full podcast right there, just looking at that book. And now I'm distracted because my laptop next to me has pictures of girls in red panties. That's a weird cultural difference, isn't it? Over here, we call pants, like, underpants are pants. But in a lot of places in the world, I'm finding, in America especially, and other places too, pants are like obviously trousers. So you have to refer to underpants as panties, which is a bit of a weird. It sounds like a childish thing to call them. I don't know. But I'm currently in a red underpant enjoying phase. So I've got lots of images of girls wearing nothing but red underpants. See, because then I put them into like collages of. Can I use this? Yeah, I can use this. Like I'll put them into collages. So this is my laptop screen, and then I have 2 rows, and each of these is an image of a girl or whatever I happen to be into. And so if I have the red panties, if you usually it's good to get like the girl's mouth in, their lips or teeth if they're smiling, and then their body with the boobies and the hips or whatever. Like that. That's generally what fits in, and then you fit just a bunch of those in. It's nicely sized on the laptop screen. And then if they're all wearing red panties, then you get like a nice strip of flesh, and then a nice strip of red, and then the same again on the bottom. And then of course it's, you know, like nipples. So you get, it's nice visually, and that's sort of where my porn addiction comes from, is visual. It's all visual, because then you stick them all together in this collage and you get flesh and nipple and then stomach and red pants and then thighs and then the same again. And that's what my addiction does to me, even to the point where I'm recording a podcast with those images right next to me, because apparently I can't not have them there for even a minute. Zombies on a train. I may have mentioned this fucking forever ago. Pretty sure I did mention it, but I can't really remember. This is horrifically embarrassing. I wrote this when I was at college, so I would have been 18-ish, 18, 19 when I wrote this. It's 56, 57, 56 and a half, 60 pages story, short story. Oh no, see, this is the front cover. And then that's the back cover. Oh no, a train stopped in a tunnel, and now it's full of zombies. What will happen next? My fingernails are filthy. Sorry, I'm very, very poorly. I can't think of the word, but you know the word. Taken care of. I'm not cleaned myself. I'm not washed. I'm filthy and horrible, which, you know, I guess is in keeping with my aesthetic. There you go. It's got some of the gunk out there. Zombies on a Train by the Ewan, because I was going by the Ewan then. So the premise is there's a guy on a train, like a British and underground, London underground subway train. And the train stops in a tunnel because of, you know, whatever. And then there's the guy on the train who looks a bit weird. It turns out he's a zombie, and then he starts attacking people, and then, oh no, they've got to like get through the train and get off the train and go through the tunnel, but there's zombies everywhere, and oh my god, what's going to happen? It was 10:32, because it has to be a random time. It can't just be 8 o'clock. 10:32 when he sat on the train. There was a motley assortment of passengers aboard, a couple eating each other's faces off, the kind of couple where the boy has long hair and they both wear those skinny jeans, so you can't tell if it's 2 girls together or even 2 boys. Oh my god. Oh. So cringe enough already. There was a motley assortment of passengers, a couple eating each other's faces. Young Ewan. See, I'd had my bisexual moments even back then, but still within me was this like self-hatred and hatred of the other, and, you know, this built-in homophobia that I took from growing up in church. And so there was clearly some of that here, which, you know, not saying it's a bad thing. Can't tell if it's 2 girls or even 2 boys. Oh, imagine that. Imagine 2 boys kissing. There was many boys at this age, as I was writing this, that I wanted to kiss. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to read through this whole thing. Don't worry, we're not. But if if you ever see something like that from me from this age that appears homophobic, it's not genuine. It's not trying to be funny. It might appear genuine, but it comes from a place of hatred toward myself and hatred put on me from outside, that I took a long time to work through. A long time to work through. So the whole thing is written like that. Two young lads, or youths as they were known nowadays. Andrew, the guy's name, apparently hated youths. 3 days ago, a pair of them mugged him, taking his watch and phone. It was a nice watch and an even nicer phone. Well, that's not a bad line, actually. That's written pretty well. Youths is what the police called them. These two on the train had typically stylish clothes and haircuts. Very now. Music blasting away infernally into their ears. Heaven forbid they should give themselves time to think freely from any noise or distraction. A minute's peace, a moment of silence, of course not. They don't want to be silly and open themselves up to human contact and then blah, blah, blah. Andrew was boring himself with his own thoughts. Well, at least I called myself on that. All this, like, social commentary I was desperately trying to put into this. An 18-year-old fucking closeted bisexual, horrifically repressed religious background 18-year-old social commentary, just ugh. The whole thing. I'm actually physically, my body is cringing as I'm even thinking about this. Now, Andrew works at an important kind of consulting firm in which celebrities are involved in some way or another. He wasn't too sure how they were involved exactly. He didn't really care. He spent most of his time in the office looking at funny videos of cats or playing with Mad Libs on the internet. That's what people do on the internet, isn't it? The other passenger was a drunk guy sleeping on the 3 seats by the end door. He stank of old booze and old urine. But most everyone was trying not to notice. He could have been homeless. He looked it. Don't know, don't care, Andrew thought to himself. Well, of course he thought to himself. He went on thinking, he's hardly going to be talking out loud to himself, is he? A wee smile was dawdling upon Andrew's face. Oh, God, I wanted to be a writer. Can you tell? Then he became aware of this and put a swift end to it. You can't be smiling in public. Don't give people any reason to look at you. Andrew just wanted to be left alone. He wanted to get home. Oh, am I projecting? Andrew just wanted to be home, or not even that, just hack hawk. The old lady started up with some more spluttering and choking. Then she was watching the young lad, watching her, like they're talking telepathically to each other, plotting something against me, I'll bet. It goes on like that. And then Andrew was 32, 33 in a week. I just turned 34. Christ. Weird. Something. Oh, yeah. I think the passed out drunk guy had, like, bitten a child, and then he was a zombie, and then the zombies go through the fucking train, and they get out of the train, and then they're in the tunnels. And like, oh, it's a zombie, the other youth had spoken of. And then I think by the end of it, Andrew, the character, I guess Andrew, manages to get out, and he gets out into the open, and he sees the open world. It's, crashed cars and burning buildings. The zombie apocalypse has apparently happened while they were on the train underground. And then at the very, very end, there's a bit where I think the whole story ends where Andrew sees his boss trapped in his car, but his boss is a zombie. So his boss was obviously driving home from work, had somehow become a zombie, and was trapped with the seatbelt in his car. And then Andrew picks up like a broken bike frame and goes like, oh, this'll do. Like he's about to go and fucking cave his boss's head in. And that's where it ends. I thought that was quite funny, It's not a bad tale, but there's just so many bits in it that are just so like, ugh. There's one bit where one of the youths that were mentioned, when they're in the tunnel, they've gotten off the train and they're walking through the tunnel. One of the youths has been bitten, and he collapses on the ground, and he's like, he knows he's done for. He's about to turn into a zombie or whatever. And they like have a moment with him. They're like, are you okay? Is there anything we can do for you? No, just leave me. I'm fine. Go. So they go on. They all walk on, leaving this kid in the tunnel to, do whatever. And then Andrew looks back and he sees him, like, he sees the youth, like, holding his iPod, and he like tosses his iPod down the tracks or whatever, because you know he's not going to need it anymore. And then Andrew thinks to himself something along the lines of like, "Oh, there's a powerful message in that somewhere." Oh my god! Oh, it's so embarrassing. But I dug this out of the bottom of a box where it was at the bottom of a box at the bottom of a pile of boxes, keeping it well hidden, but I kept hold of it. I also have this, which is a collection of zombies, of zombie drawings I did around that time, and I just thought it might be interesting to look through them. Let's do it this way, from the bottom up. Ooh, look how fucking bad that is. Again, 18, 19 years old, desperately trying to be like 5 or 10 different artists at once. I don't know if you can see, I guess I was doing some kind of like zombie comic. And this is supposed to be like a hospital room, but there's like bloody sheets and stains on the floor and everything's broken and falling apart. There's smears of blood across the wall. Like I even used the thumbprint there. Ooh. It's all just like, you can kind of tell what's what, but it's not really well drawn. And then that's, you know, like a cityscape and zombies. Weird, messy ink wash and weird scribbly hatching that you can't really tell what's going on. Another page from the comic, I guess. I think this is, they're like scientists responsible for the whole thing are in prison. And it's the most like cliched prison fucking thing, with the light coming through the bars and weird angles because I don't know how to draw properly. And the drawings themselves are awful. Oh, they're so bad. Intestines and pointing to certain organs, talking about zombie things, police tape and a dead body with its head caved in. A bit of brain here, I think. I don't know. Zombie stuff. Whatever. Oh, that's quite cool. See, this is like snowmen that are zombies, and this guy's shooting him, and he's got actual brains and stuff inside his head and a spinal cord. But he's a snowman, but he's got brains. What's going on? Oh! That's like a paper cut. That's cut out of paper, like you'd make a stencil or whatever. Out of black paper, letting the white show through. A zombie with his intestines, his hand here. Some nice like black and white contrast. It's like arm bones. Apparently, I thought there were 2 bones in the upper arm as well as the lower arm, the forearm, which I now know there are not. But apparently, I thought that he's 1, 2 bones there. Wow, young Ewan, you were something. Oh, that's from Day of the Dead, Bub from Day of the Dead, and that's the zombie you see at the start of Day of the Dead, and that's the zombie on the operating table, and it's got all its head taken off, but its brain is there and it still moves and stuff. And that's the guy having his head clawed apart, all from Day of the Dead. I was obviously watching that, drawing zombies. Oh shit. Oh god, how bad that is. I mean, you can say like, well, you know, you're younger. Bear in mind, like 15 or more years ago, I was trying to do so many things at once, using paint and ink and like this circle where you know, get like a glass and put it in the paint and then put it on there. And dude was quite good, but again, just, I mean, it's not even like bad, but it's not good. Just a messy kind of washy ink painting of a zombie, trying to use multimedia and trying. Oh, that's pretty good. That's clearly an Ashley Wood influence. You can see the marker pen underneath. I think this is when I started becoming obsessed with Ashley Wood. I'd probably seen Robots vs Zombies, and at this time, you know, this whole thing comes from being obsessed with zombies, regardless of Zombies versus Robots. A huge collection of zombie films started building up, zombie games, books, comics, all of it. That's when I was getting into The Walking Dead, way before it was a TV show. I just saw the comic on a shelf and thought it looked cool because it had zombies. Some zombies eating some fucker. A bunch of brown tape. for the background actually just stuck on there, cut out for the... I mean, it's something, but again, so desperately trying to be something or have some kind of style. Oh, I don't even know. Just a bunch of zombies. Maybe these were all going to be characters in the Zombies on the Train. Do you like how I actually like get stuff cut out of a newspaper for the letters, but then do the Z, because I couldn't find a Z, I guess, a Z. I see you've got like a typical girl, and then like a goth guy and a fat touristy couple, some chump. Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, these are all characters from in here. All of these people are mentioned at one point or another. I think these people are mentioned first. That's the boy that gets... That's the drunk guy who smells of old booze and old urine. That's the boy who he bites. That's some girl, some old woman, the kid's mum, I guess. That's the train guard, I think, who's a fat guy who gets his guts eaten out. Some guy gets his arm bitten off. I think that's maybe Andrew's like co-worker or something he sees on the train who he didn't realise was there. Some guy has his face eaten off and gets up. And then I think outside of that, all of these people are mentioned at one time or another. This is a security guard. That's some guy. And this guy's mentioned with his bloated stomach. Wow. Illustrations for my book. That's pretty good, actually. Spray paint, marker pen, white paint to like cut into the spray paint. I mean, yeah, it's not amazing, but like not terrible. And this is a photocopy of this, and this is a photo of the original drawing. I don't know where the original is. But I was quite happy with that. You know, it's painted with a sort of dryish brush, and it's not that bad. It's a pretty good image, isn't it? Something. I'm actually annoyed. I thought there was a picture in here. It might have been in an old sketchbook now I think about it. Because there's a scene towards the end where they get off the tracks into a station, and as he's going through the station he sees a billboard, and the billboard is like an advert for like some women's fragrance or something. And then he looks at the billboard and then laughs because there's a billboard here with like some woman's face on it, you know, looking all like fancy with jewelry and stuff, and then there's a floor here. You know how floors work. Then but he laughs as Andrew's running through the station. He laughs to himself because there's a big blood smear here, and then it like smears down the wall and onto the floor, and there's like some guts and stuff on the floor. But then he laughs to himself because it looks like she's got a big red beard, which is quite funny. And I painted that. It's about as well painted as anything else in here. But yeah, I painted that scene from like sort of this angle. So the billboard's like at this angle, tiled walls and stuff. And yeah, so this is all bloody, smearing down the wall, blood and guts on the floor, and this woman with a big bloody red beard. That's kind of cool, isn't it? I mean, that's something. I don't know. But it's like, you know, being creative, and I was making shit, and you look back and it's all cringe as fuck. Chapter 3, the girlfriend had tied a pink scarf around Peter's shoulders in place of a bandage. She complained about the colour, but seemed happy enough. Scarily calm, in fact. Peter was the little boy, I guess, who got bitten. It's a zombie. Oh, we've been there to that bit. I was going to see if there's any more cringy little bits I could pull out. They were walking down next to the train they'd just been on, walking past the carriages. There were other people further back on the train. One man seemed to be having a fairly rough time. He was banging on the window, screaming for help. Everyone was just underneath, watching. Then he was gone, silent. The window exploded out, showering the group with glass. There were a couple of shrieks. Then the guy was at the window again. Hey, help! He was climbing out. Then he stopped and looked confused. Then he was moving backwards, screaming. He fell back into the coach, no longer visible, but they could hear him screaming, "No, get off, help!" Wet munching noises, snapping and stretching, splats and drips. There was movement further down the coach from where they were. The group couldn't see much looking up. Two sets of head and shoulders, a man and a woman. A man and a woman. Idiot, you. Fairly average looking, grey-skinned, lurching onwards toward the chewing noises, moaning excitedly, audible salivating. Oh my god. It's not even that badly written. It's the parts where I get trying to have like fucking George Romero did, where he tries desperately to do some social commentary and it just comes off as like, ugh, just fucking stop it. Just make a cool zombie thing. Don't get too bogged down in having a message. Like, or have one big message overall, but don't try to pepper in like little digs here and there. I think that's maybe the key to it. Just make a cool thing, and that's something I wasn't aware of doing at this age. I wanted, even as a writer, I wanted to be like, I want to make a story that like points out this that's wrong with society and this thing about how we're currently living and. Man. Oh my god. Where are we at time-wise? I was going to draw a little zombie thing, I guess. I don't know. I hadn't really planned on much. Did you see my crab? Yeah, I did it last week. Oh, speaking of red panties, check these out. Because you know I did that painting of something from The Thing for a commission. I'm aware painting with red is very difficult, but I'm aware gouache paint is very opaque. Whereas if I was using red acrylic and I did that sort of red glow underneath The Thing, it would have needed about 5 layers to look anywhere remotely good if I was using this red acrylic paint, which is good, but it depends sort of what you're painting it on top of and then how transparent or opaque it is. Whereas gouache, 1 or 2 layers of that, it will cover almost anything. And I found these in the store. They're relatively expensive, but each of them, I don't even know if it will show up on camera. Each of them are very slightly different in tone. And I was aware the red spray paint I'd used underneath, I have to do this when I say the word spray paint so you know I'm talking about spray paint that you use like this, was a very specific kind of red. It wasn't just like a cadmium red or a crimson or something. And I wasn't sure which of these would best suit it, so I got all 3 and did a little test, and I can't even remember which one worked out best. But now I've got a bunch of red paints, so I might do something with those at some point. Maybe I'll paint a bunch of pictures of ladies, or well, that could work. If I do a bunch of drawings of women, like nude women, and then paint red underwear on all of them. No, that's a good idea for like a second, but now I think about it, that's a pretty sort of naff idea. Maybe if I do like 2 or 3 drawings like that, I could do one with each shade of red, couldn't I? Fucking... I feel like this has been a show and tell episode as opposed to hey, let's draw some shit episode. I don't even know like how to draw zombies anymore, which sounds silly because they're just people. Maybe I could draw Hellboy as a zombie. Oh, Hell Zombie. Ugh. And like one kind of horn and then one of his regular sort of horns. Brains. I always found it problematic when you make zombies look, not problematic, but like not good, not maybe as visually interesting, when if you draw zombies and they look too monstrous. Because I think the whole point of zombies is that they are people. That's the thing, is they're just humans that have become feral or whatever. So when they start to look too monstrous, when you start to pull more and more bits of them off and have them looking like a creature as opposed to a human, that's where they start to lose their impact for me personally. There's a really good... I'll get something else. Wait there, I'll be right back. Yeah, okay. I had to check that they show up on camera well enough because this one's quite dark. These are really good paintings of zombies. These are the books. They're word books I used to read. I've got shelves and shelves full of actual books with no pictures in, like this. These are collections of short zombie stories. Some of them are really good, and some of them are like, eh. But I love the artwork. The Living Dead 2. I love these paintings because they're really good paintings just in general. They're well painted paintings, but they're good because they're zombie paintings and they just look like people. And I imagine the artist, does it say? Cover art by David Palumbo. Do I know David Palumbo's art? I recognise the name, but it might be because I looked at these books before. David Palumbo art. He does a lot of fantasy art, so it makes sense that he does zombies. Yeah, very sort of realistic looking fantasy artwork. I don't recognise much of his stuff, but these are fucking good. I assume he used photographic reference or people as reference, and then like painted this guy missing an arm with some bite marks and the skin missing on his head. But they still very much look like people, and that's, to me, what zombies are supposed to be. It's when you start making them look like walking skeletons that they look like something out of the fucking Evil Dead 3, where it's just ridiculous and not really scary, almost cartoonish. But when they're like this, that's like not necessarily scary, but this is what zombies are to me. Like this, just sort of people coming at you trying to eat your fucking face off, and that's because that's the whole point of zombies, isn't it? Like having zombies as monsters, is fun. It's cool to draw, and it's probably really fun to like make the special effects makeup for zombies with their face torn off and their neck ripped out and all their intestines falling down and their rib cage showing and stuff, one or two limbs missing. They look cool and they are fun to draw, but in terms of like zombie lore, that's an R by the way, they're just sort of like they don't feel as zombie as they maybe should or could. Very much a personal taste thing, but fucking whatever. For some reason I'm drawing a Hellboy zombie. I don't know. Oh, where did I get that idea? Oh, because I'd just been looking at Hellboy comics. I'd wager that's where that came from. This is something that, I want to somehow be able to show off to people, like how quickly I can draw. Because I can draw pretty fucking quick. Especially if I have an idea of what I'm drawing. I can get some shit down on paper pretty fucking fast. Especially if I'm using the right tools and whatnot. But if I try to get a job doing illustration, and part of being an illustrator is working quickly. People can ask, how quickly can you work? And you can say I can do a comic page in a day, and then they'll listen to you and be like, oh, okay, cool. But I feel like I want to be able to show people, potential employers or clients or whatever. I want to be able to show them, say, look, give me 5 minutes and watch me draw some shit for you. And then they'll be like, hey, that's impressive, kid. To a 34-year-old man. But of course, because of my trauma, I still feel like a child pretending to be an adult, and I'm sure that's the case for many people. No one necessarily feels like an adult, but I'm just a young boy pretending to be an old man, desperately trying to be an old man, but hey, that's why I'm seeing a therapist. Well, you know that, and wanting to be dead. Wanting to be dead? What, like a zombie? Oh, do zombies still get trains? Do you get whole trains full of zombies? Is there zombies on a train? And see, the title's like Snakes on a Plane, because that had come out and that was like a thing at the time. So snakes on a plane, zombies on a train. See, that's a thing. This actually looks quite cool. Zombie Hellboy. It's not as sort of naff as I was expecting it to be. I thought it was just like a silly little gimmick, like, oh, what if I do a Hellboy zombie? Ugh. And then I draw it, and I'm like, oh, actually, it's pretty cool. It's no Death Fist, you know, that guy. But it's pretty cool. I tried to make it look like his lip has kind of been torn away a bit, but I don't know how much that comes across. But yeah, man, I mean, I've said I wrote my dissertation on zombies at university. I was a huge zombie fan, and I still am to a degree, but I'm a fan of what zombies were, not necessarily a fan of what they've become. And I mean, that's my dissertation at its the crux, at its core. My dissertation was about zombies in popular culture, and if their gain in popularity over the recent years is having a deteriorating effect on their horror potential. If it's just, making them this watered down thing that you've seen too much now, so it's not scary anymore. And I think in conclusion, I was sort of like a bit, but ultimately whatever. Like if you make a good zombie film, it's a good zombie film. But then if you make a zombie film pandering to fans and it's full of pop culture references, if you make Zombieland basically, then it's shit. But I really liked that. It was really cool, and Woody Harrelson's a really good actor. No, Zombieland's shit. I've got a lot of shit zombie films because there are a lot out there, and I've still got them in my collection. But Zombieland, I threw out. I threw out my copy of Zombieland because it was just shit. I didn't want it anymore. See, because I used to have DVDs. I still do have DVDs, but that's used to be how I consumed my media. And I like zombies a lot. I read about them. I played games. Dead Rising, the first one, brilliant. Second one, sort of okay. Left 4 Dead 2, both of them amazing. And I know there's a billion fucking zombie games and online games, and I'm so out of the loop now of zombie stuff. Like I have my little collection, and that's about where I'm at. Anything outside of that, I'm just sort of like meh. I don't really partake in the culture these days. And I was never into dressing up. I know that was a big thing. A lot of people love zombies and they dress up as them. They have zombie walks that are a thing where hundreds of people will dress up as zombies and go on like a pub crawl or whatever and walk around town as a horde of zombies and go to pubs and hang out and whatever. And to me that was always just like, I don't really like. I like them as fiction. I have no interest in pretending to be one. That said, if I was ever given the opportunity to play a zombie in a film, I would absolutely take that. But that's different, isn't it? It's different. Oh wow! Ewan drew Hellboy as a zombie in like a few minutes. Oh, you're amazing, Ewan. I wish I could be you and have your massive penis. Oh, it had to go there, didn't it? You have to ruin it. You have to taint it. Taint. I was going to write the word taint in big. You have to taint your fucking all your shit with penis references.